Hello and welcome to MoCDA Talk Series. We're connecting with Beatriz Ramos, digital artist, photographer, animator and founder of Dada.art alongside Judy Mam. Dada is a social network where artists speak to each other through drawings with a decentralized digital art marketplace on the blockchain. Enjoy the talk.
So yes, thank you for joining me today. I wanted to talk to you, and it's been such a long time since we last saw each other. It felt like yesterday, but actually it's been quite a few months now. And yeah, I wanted to catch up first of all, and then share your story with the people watching today, and also understanding how you guys are living through the pandemic, which is affecting all of us. But in a way, you know, we're sort of trying to connect with artists to, first of all, try and keep the morale, you know, going, share good art, and also the experiences. So it is interesting to see how the internet is actually bringing us together in ways that, you know, until a few months ago, people were sort of struggling, galleries and museums, to get online. And now it seems like one of the very few way, if not the only way, to stay connected. So I just wanted to get through how has it been for you, and then, you know, you can sort of give us a background about your story as an artist, and now you got to start the Dada project.
Yeah, sure. So these times are for me they're interesting in the sense that it's extremely tragic that we have to go to this point. But I look at this as an opportunity, and I hope that we get out of this much better. I'm an optimist. So since I've been the last 5 months, I think, or 6 months, I've been working on the paper for the token economy for Dada, and being in that mindset, getting into the pandemic, there's a lot of opportunity for change, and for change that is good for everyone. I'm actually, you know, I see it as an opportunity. I think we're going to pull through this and be stronger and better. So, you know,
Yeah,
that's
I
one
agree with
thing.
you.
But yeah.
I do agree with you, and I hope that what is currently happening, I know, is hurting a lot of people in different ways, but I do hope that we will come after this as better human beings and better artists and better people, you know, so that we can take care of our planet better and ourselves.
Yeah, people and animals and everything. So it's, you know, it's hard because it like I feel I was in Paris for five months, and then I just came to New York to do a surgery, and I spent a month recovering, and through that month then the pandemic started. So I wasn't supposed to be here. I'm just here because I couldn't get out of it, of New York. And thankfully, I'm with Judy, and it's much better than being alone. But one thing that is interesting is to see New York. It's like two different cities. Like, you know, there is all this tragedy happening, but if you're in Manhattan, you don't really feel it. It's like you go out, and the city is so pleasant, and there are birds chirping, and it's such a, you know, pleasant. In the other borders, it's a completely different story. So it's hard. Like, we have to be mindful of how privileged we are, and because we have the time and the privilege to think about you know, how to help moving forward. I think that's the main thing. It's really doing that work while we are you know, in this situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I was speaking to another artist that is based in New York a few days back, and, you know, they were telling me it doesn't feel like you're living through what's happening on the news, and it's so weird. It's the same here in London, you know, you don't really feel it. But then the minute you start going out, then you see people behaving in different ways. And so it reminds you that something is quite not right. But
I know,
yes,
but
you're going.
we also get used to everything so fast, you know,
Mm,
like that's we're so adaptable that things that because when the pandemic, because I was recovering from surgery, I didn't really went out for like
mhm.
three weeks before the pandemic, before the lockdown, the stay home orders. And so when I finally went out, I wanted to document what I was saying. I wanted to take pictures
Yeah.
and sort of tell that story. And so the things that were completely shocking in the beginning now seem perfectly normal. And it's
In
just,
only like
it's
a
only
few
been 2
weeks.
weeks or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So that's that's an interesting fact, that you can really get used to everything. And being from Venezuela, I know that you can go through years and just get used to little by little of,
Hmm.
of things that we shouldn't accept.
Yeah.
But it's the same way in the other side, the little things that you can do to make it better.
Hmm. Yeah. There's a few pictures that you've shared with me. Are you okay to put them here on the screen
Yeah,
and
yeah, of
maybe
course.
talk
Yeah, I sent
through?
you just in case it came out. Because one of the things that I noticed was that there were a lot of discarded globes on the
Hmm.
street, and that was like I couldn't understand why in the beginning, in the first days, because nobody was really wearing any masks or. But then as I walked through New York, I started taking tons of pictures of. I think
Hmm.
I have,
I'm just gonna show a
200
few that you
pictures.
sent.
And then I started doing these compositions with them, trying to change maybe uh, whatever they signify. You can just change it, make it about something else. Like some people have
Hmm.
told me that it reminds them of condoms on the street or is disgusting. But if you can make things that are, meaningful in the sense that it's a sign of these times,
Hmm.
to have uh, these globes on the streets, on every street, but at
Hmm.
the same time you can make it beautiful. You can change it.
Hmm.
You can take that and make it into something that is beautiful. And I think that's a metaphor of what we were just talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel that in 10 years' time or even 5 years' time, I don't know if that will be enough for us to look back at these pictures and see what would make people feel, how it would make people feel. And even, further down the line, how we as human probably would have changed the way we interact with each other. We don't know whether these sort of social distancing is going to stay and for how long.
I
So
hope
if
not.
I
I
hope
hope not.
not, yes,
I hope people hug more, actually.
yeah, but in a way, it's it is traumatic to feel the absence of somebody next to you, sharing in person. So yeah, absolutely, I feel that there is beauty in these stories, and what you're picturing here is literally moments of people's stories that have probably not even met each other, but they've left something behind. So it's kind of like recollecting all these little moments that were left behind to protect ourselves from others. So it is quite interesting to see how these meanings of life can come together, even
Yeah,
through
it's like a
distance.
snapshot also of a very particular time, because this is like what, at least in New York, the way New York was 2 weeks ago is very different than what is New York now, and it will be very different in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So it's also a snapshot, and you can probably start to see some kind of evolution from this. And what is interesting to me is to think about, and it's very hard, but to think about trying to project way into the future how how this could play out,
Mm-hmm.
so that we pay attention to the decisions that we should be making today, that are going to define the directions we're going to go in 6 months, in a year. So, and in the next 10 years. And that's a very hard thing to do, but I think to be able to do it, you can't just look at the news, or you have to go out and experience it, and you have to really go inside and feel it.
Yeah.
And I think that's at the end of the day what artists do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like building a documentary of stories, I feel. There's a Lunara sharing a little thought about your the triptych here, and she goes, this reminds me either of our chance of contact dead on the streets and an escape of our hands from the gloves to just have contact again. So yeah,
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Eleonora. But yeah,
Leonora.
There's also pictures that you've been taking of empty streets.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of that. I always felt I always take pictures of empty places that are supposed to be crowded. Like if I go, I don't know, I remember, like, I will go out at 5 in the morning in Prague to be able to take shots of the bridge with nobody, right? Like I always did that. But what is interesting now is that you're actually feeling the true state of the city. And so in that case, when it was raining and I wanted to take pictures of Times Square, because then it will look more beautiful, the reflections on the floor, and
there's literally nobody around. I don't see anyone.
And what is interesting is that it's not scary. It's not. There's something beautiful about it, and I think in the case of New York is that you really, I mean, the amount of birds that are around and the silence. So all you hear is them chirping, and so it's such a, I don't know, it's such a different thing. It really connects you with nature and what we're lacking and missing, and our ways of life, how we have constructed in a way that New York is almost unbearable. The noise and the levels of noise, and then all of a sudden this pleasant city with all these like birds, like almost having a party. And
I know, right?
Really,
I've seen so many animals here and around London. I actually saw a fox fighting with a cat the other day. And yes, the birds during the day and in the morning, very early in the morning, is so, unusual to see different life except from human lives in such big cities where you're surrounded by concrete. So finding these empty spaces, and see also, I think we probably notice things that we wouldn't have noticed when places are crowded. You tend to explore with your eyes the height of buildings or the surrounding. So I'm just showing some more images that you've taken.
Thank you.
The street.
And so yeah, so that is I think what we do, right? Like as artists, we just go out and do art whatever way we can.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you'd like to share with us, what's your journey as an artist and how you started with your creative process and how you sort of entered now into this phase of capturing moments of this pandemic.
Yeah, so I mean, I have to say that it's interesting when you asked me to share a sample of my work. It was the most difficult. It took me 3 days to really even
I'm sorry,
get something to you, because it's interesting to me that I feel that my work is so connected to Dada that that I don't see it anymore as paintings or photographs or animation or film. It's like, I think the body of my work is Dada in itself, but that's not something you can just show, and it's not something that I'm the only one doing or creating, and it's hard to
I'm just showing a data creation.
To give an image of that. But so I went to school for art. I major in illustration, and I think I love to draw. I love to paint. And I think when I started my career as an editorial illustrator, the thing about illustration is that you're alone. It's you and your work, and you in your house, and you doing your thing, which is a perfectly beautiful thing. You know, being a hermit, it completely fits my personality. But what I learned when I moved to New York, I was never really interested in animation as a career. But when I came to New York, I started working in animation studios. What I felt that it was that I just fall in love immediately was that in animation everything is about collaboration. And so whatever you're doing, there's a bunch of people that did stuff before you, and then whatever you're doing, other people are going to take it. It's sort of like you're passing the baton. And so the community is extremely collaborative, encouraging. Everybody loves everybody's work and says so. And there's no competition because we all depend on what everyone is doing. And the better the job the person before me does, the better I can do mine, the better the other. So
I really like this about data, that there's a whole conversation ongoing, and it's about leaving the doors open to the person coming next, and also allowing yourself to open your brain, your soul, and share through drawing.
Yeah, exactly. So what you see in the spirit of Dada is that exactly, and I think that is you can do beautiful things, and people may love them or not. It doesn't matter. I mean, it depends on how confident you are. May matter more or not, but it's really the act of sharing, actively sharing with other people, like really collaborating and experimenting together, that I think it's so meaningful to me. And so, because it completely changes the way you see art, the way you see your work, the way you think about your own identity as an artist. And so so that marked me early in my career, and everything from then on for me was always very, very actively making it collaborative. Even when I had the animation studios and offices and employees and all that set up that now I hate, but back then it was the thing to do. Even then, I always treated everyone as collaborators and not employees, and so you try to work with people that you love the work they do, and then just let them do whatever they want, because they're always going to surprise you in the best way. And so in that sense, that always try to experiment, always try to use a new medium, but always also trying to bring viscerality, emotion to it, beauty to it, creepiness to it, like making it, if it was something, like in the case of the gloves, if it's something that people in general will feel is disgusting, how you make that beautiful or poetic. And if it's something that is beautiful, how you get the edge out of it, how you make it a little bit off, a little bit, raw. So that I think is the balance in terms of the actual tone of my work. And then I done again a lot of experimentation. That piece that you promoted, did it, it has painting, it has animation, stop motion animation, but it also has a lot of post-production that you can't even really see. And I did that in collaboration with who was the creative director of my animation studio in New York, I mean in Caracas.
Okay,
So I
I'm
will
showing
do
it just here.
all the artsy part in New York, and he will take it and just make it, edit it, and do the post-production. His name is Jose Antonio Gea. And it was just such an amazing collaboration. I would just like send him whatever, all the raw material, and he will make this thing. And the same with the music. Tommy Z from Canada did the music, and it just, when things fit that well with other people, it's just like, it surprises you what you do in your own work, and it surprised you in the sense that you're doing something that you could never have done without these other people.
Yeah.
And so that, if you think about all those things, it just leads to that really organically, because it really is about being playful. It's about being expressive and honest, and don't worry about skills or technique or having any kind of constraints other than your own, and even with your own, trying to break those. And I think that's what Dada do successfully.
And is that something that, you as an artist, or when you were training to become an animator and an artist, you always wanted to collaborate with others? Because, there's a lot of artists that sort of want to dive in their own journey. But how do you see the collaboration and what you've created with Dada sort of allowing artists to be more open towards each other, and supporting the community? Because I think something we're seeing these days is that artists now are really supporting other artists. There's even like hashtags that have come around saying artists supporting artists, and I think it's quite beautiful to know that you may have lost a commission, or maybe you were supposed to do an exhibition and you couldn't, but having this sort of background that through Dada and through a collaborative project, you can still support one another. It is really important, not just for the community, but for the art in itself, for the development of the art. So was that something that you always sort of wanted to develop, or you felt the need as an artist to stay in contact with others and create art alongside other artists?
Well, I think it's interesting, because I think I'm gonna make a gross generalization, but I'm pretty sure it's accurate. And we are, as artists, that's what you do. It's natural to be collaborative. It's natural to want to play with somebody that you admire the work. It's natural to just like go back and forth and have that dialogue, whether it's visual or with music or artistically, with somebody else. That is just part of it. What changed? I mean, it's interesting, because it's like people. You know how people always says that being competitive is
Yeah.
human nature.
Yeah.
It's just such a bullshit. It
Yeah.
is, because it's like, well, they say this because,
well, I think it's a
they
cultural
assume
thing,
that,
it's
well, we're
kind of
more
like,
competitive than collaborative, right? That is the argument.
yeah.
But we're social. We're human beings. It's a survival thing. That the one thing that we know is that we are social, and it was through cooperation that we have come this far. And so, as a species, I mean, that is a fact. What is not a fact is that we're all competitive. What makes us competitive is the system, because you have to compete, otherwise you lose. And so it's the opposite. To me, it's more like trying to constrain the forces that makes us competitive, even though we are not, trying to open spaces for a more organic, natural way of interacting with each other. That is there. Like we didn't change any behavior in Dada. The behavior was there. What we did was to offer tools where that behavior could flourish. But it's just it's sometimes now that we're getting more into the art world, which is not my space, I'm always being a commercial artist. And then we go, I don't know, to some parties. It's just like, I find it the most, it's not very fun to be around artists in that context. It's to say the least, because it's like, it feels like it's such a lack of generosity. It's like such a lack of so much insecurity, so much, and I think it comes not because people are that way, but because we have to behave in certain ways in certain contexts.
It's like a pre-constructed way of being around others, especially in some sectors, you know.
I mean, I have a very close friend who is, I'm not going to say his name, I don't want to put him on the, but it's like my brother. It's like we're very, very close and know him forever. And he's now a very respected artist in the art world. And even like I see him behaving in this context, and it's like an asshole, and then but he's like the best guy ever. And so we've talked about this, and what he says is like the more he behaves that way, the more respected he is. Mm-hmm. And isn't it that tragic? Right.
It is.
So I think it is.
It is that we have to be something different from what we are. That's something that really.
I mean, you have to become this
me.
persona, right?
Yeah.
And it's not a thing that's just in the art world. It's like I had to do that as a creative director of an animation studio, and I will go to Cannes Festival, and I will have to behave in a certain way, mm-hmm. right? But it's hard to maintain your own authenticity, even though everybody's talking about that these days. But the only way to really be authentic is to be vulnerable, is to just put yourself out there the way you are. And it's very hard to do that these days.
It is, but in a way, I think there's there are artists that still manage to be themselves, but I think it's because a lot of those lucky people that can be themselves have already reached fame or are okay with their own status that can allow themselves to be natural. But yes, I totally agree with you that there are constraints within society that we are born and raised to, and we have those models, and we have to somehow fit into these models. But it's not said that these models are the right ones, you know. As we can see now, everything is sort of reshaping because of this virus. So everyone is sort of questioning the way we have behaved so far within society, because certainly what we've been up to until now, it's probably not working, or it's probably not the best way of being, because something went actually wrong. So I think a lot of people are probably reshaping or rethinking through their own personas. I'm not talking about the self, but I'm talking about the what we portray within society. So I wanted to ask if you think that Dada could actually influence people in a positive way to be more collaborative and to see art as a process that is done as a team rather than as a self, as one. So do you think that Dada would help people sort of learning through the pandemic and become better artists and more open towards collaborations, for example? Or how do you see that going, you know, through these times?
Since we're talking about that, I want to bring Judy too. So Judy, you want to say hi?
Yes, I wanted to invite Judy as
everyone.
well. Hello, Judy. You've been
I'm the one
hiding.
who's been saying hello with all the hi.
Hey, how are you?
Everyone. Yeah, I was gesturing to Bea. Yes. Now, I mean, it's funny. Like now that we have the pandemic, and Dada is such a kind of an organic and natural place for people to be at home and either see the art or make the art. But I mean, I have to say that even before the pandemic, I was telling Bea that we are like cockroaches. We're really not going to die, I don't think, because you know we operate with very leanly. We have not become profitable yet, but still we are out there, and people draw on Dada, and then we have this pandemic where people are stuck at home. And for me, it's absolutely moving to see every day I go into Dada and I see people who are drawing together from their houses. And it never, I mean, this we always said that is so cool, but now that it's actually a necessity in a way, and now that you don't really have a choice, and I see people still making like what you see in the background there, like this one conversation started really at the beginning of the pandemic. I think it started like 3 months ago, and people still keep adding and adding, and we have artists from like, I don't know, at least 12 different countries. And I just find it so moving that I can see that we are all kind of sharing the same experience. So now I can imagine everybody's like us, like we're wearing our slippers. We dressed up for the occasion, but we're wearing our slippers, and people are at home, and it's like going into a window of into the window of what we're all doing. We're sharing a moment worldwide where we're all stuck and trying not to go crazy. And I feel that I can die happily knowing that we provided at least this nice public service during this time.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a question from Eleonora asking if when these conversations start, is there a theme that is being set and then people create, or does somebody starts with a drawing and then everyone else sort of follow on
it
you know,
depends.
takes on the flow?
Some people start with a drawing. They don't use a title, and they just do this one drawing, and so people follow. Some people have themes even if they don't use the title, and some people put the titles. What is fun is that both the people who draw and I think the people who respond, it's kind of like this one-off thing where that's where you decide what the theme is going to be, right? In a way, where it's going to take it. That's the fun part, because you may start in one place and end in a completely different thing. If you see here, it started a very kind of like very abstractly, but then there's a cat and there's some guy and then there's some like, you know, so part of the fun is there's some eyes, you know. Part of the fun is that artists will bring what you know, what they feel like expressing and add. But there are certain conversations that are very coherent, because when they are kind of narrative or where there seems to be a theme, then people kind of follow on their own a coherent topic. No,
I just want to add that I think what it does is that it makes it focus on the process rather than on the actual end product. And I think that is so important for art. Like it is about the process. It's all about that experimental phase, and whatever happens or whatever you get out of it, it doesn't really matter to me. It doesn't matter. So if you think about art in that way, the pressure comes down. Because if it's not about making this beautiful thing, if it's just about just making something, and eventually you may get there or may not, but you learn something and you did something else, that is the fun part of it. And when you do that with other people, it's even more it's easier to fall into that mindset and just like allow yourselves to go and flow and discover where the art is going.
Where it takes you, yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
It leads you, yeah.
Eleonora was asking if we have noticed any difference between like the colors or the styles or the topics since the pandemic. And I don't think, you know, we have the beautiful thing about Dada is that there's a great variety of expression. There was one conversation that was about the pandemic, that really great conversation with like different people showing people wearing masks. But they've been.
But I would say, like, if you look at that conversation and if you look at Dada now, the fit the colors are super bright. There's a lot of, they feel very fresh. There's not a lot of like hyper realism and you know, like elaborate. It's more like really expressive. People are getting things out, and they're getting things out.
I think the colors
are
are bright, and some of the drawings are more defined.
Which also means that, like, somebody up there in the chat was saying that it's great, but that feels a little bit intimidating sometimes. And we really want people not to feel intimidated at all. So this is the perfect time to just go in there and experiment, because no one is really going to, you know, it's more expressive and more free,
and also how it can be intimidating. It's like full of bugs and stuff, and you know, that's the whole point. It's like, it's just like,
like Ilan Katin was saying that I love you guys, but it's so buggy, it's such a pain in the ass to use. And
well, like, from the iPad,
I think yes, maybe it's about learning also how to use the digital medium, because yes, you know, you will need to adapt and find your own style, your own way, and build your color palette to start creating your work. But in a way, you know, I think getting through a journey that allows you to collaborate with so many people in such a free way is such an amazing experience that artists should really consider making that effort to join, you know, something that could take them to the next level, you know.
It's just like it's just so freeing to do it, and then if you're a really good artist and you get somebody who, let's say, is just starting out and does something, as an artist, that's a challenge. How you take that into something that you know, that becomes something bigger. I think one thing that works for that is that you don't have, you have a lot of constraints, in the sense that there's not a lot of option. The tool is what it is. You can get only what you can get, even though you can actually get amazing things. It has a lot of constraints, and that's on purpose. But on the other hand, you can reply to anything that you want. You don't have to reply to a specific thing. Whatever you saw, if you liked it, you reply to it. So,
if you have a crude enough point.
Well, but I mean, my point is that it completely changes the artist's block, because the block comes from certain types of constraint, and when you don't have those, when you can just like do whatever and feel free to just like, then it really opens a lot of that creativity flow. And I think that it is all about that. And so it doesn't matter if you're a very high skilled artist or not. We should be doing that every day, whether, you know, we're super skilled or we're starting out. We should be on that process every single day. And it's sad that we don't, but yeah, it's a way of doing that.
Yeah, there's a few comments, questions coming through. Darcy sort of sharing that we shouldn't dictate what artists should do. And I think in a way, yes, it is true that everyone should be free to try and test whichever form of expressing ourselves we find. For example, I've never really been drawing. I did it when I was a child, but then I find myself expressing my energy, my, you know, emotions through something that is more physical, like doing sculptures or playing with wood or just going for
theater, right?
You know, or theater or writing. So I think, yes, it is true. What I meant to say is that if we know that making an effort or learning how to use a tool will give us some form of reward, which should be like connecting us with others or creating something digital that we were not maybe able to do before, maybe we can go the extra mile and learn something new. Because I know, you know, people maybe are used to their own tools and maybe they love being in their own studio with what they know, but sometimes it's also you know, having a challenge. It can also trigger some more creativity and allow you to explore areas.
Like getting out of your comfort zone.
Yeah. So that's what I meant. But I don't know if you guys have anything to share on that point.
I completely. I mean that is. I think what we're trying to do is to precisely not. It's not about good art or bad art or who's a good artist or what you should do or what you shouldn't do. I think after I graduated from art school, I spent pretty good year or two taking out of my system everything that I've learned. Because it really constrains you. And so
Yeah.
I just understood that now I had these abilities and these like techniques and skills, but in terms of what you can do with it, I had to completely like forget about it and start like a kid again, so that I could actually really have fun with it. And I think that's important. We have to be able to just be free and do whatever we want.
One thing that I think makes Dada what it is that we have a founder who is an artist, and it makes a huge difference. I'm not an artist. I'm a writer. I'm a verbal person. But the fact that Bea is an artist and she has this point of view that is like, you know, from another planet to people who are not artists. But as we were building Dada, she kept saying, well, people have to draw. And we were like, they do? You know, I mean, because we had a slightly different approach at the very, very, very beginning. And she said, no, artists have to draw, but they also have to draw as a conversation, not on top of each other. And everything that you hear her say impacts, of course, impacts who we are. But it makes a huge difference to have an artist be the person who actually, you know, has created the thing, because not a marketer, not an engineer, not like whatever. It's somebody who really feels and thinks as an artist. So I think that is reflected in the platform.
We have been as artists, as visual artists, we've been always, as I said, how you like the tyranny of the words. Like we're being under, you know, a tyranny of people that is, you know, that are extroverted, people that are very, very eloquent with words. And, you know, we may not be like that. I'm an introvert and I'm much more eloquent visually. And so in general, it's like you're in this world that doesn't really fit for you. And so it's like, no, I don't want to change the world, but I just want to we want to make our own little place where we feel comfortable and it's organic to us. So it's not really me. It's like we're all like that.
Who is we?
Visual artists. We're all naturally like that.
Yes, of
course. So it's like it just comes natural. It's this amazing community that we have, and that it's also been overlapping with the crypto art community. It's just we are all like that. It's natural. It's not a function of blockchain or the platform of Dada. It's a function that it attracts a certain type of people because you can't experience that normally out there.
Yeah, there's something that Eleonora also asked earlier. Can you please explain one of the very important points of Dada platform? Everyone has access to the same tools and amount of time. You don't have 1 year to create your piece and no better tools. So I think maybe Eleonora was asking if, it's not really a question, it's more like a comment. Can you please explain one of the very important points of Dada platform? Everyone has access to the same tools and amount of time. You don't have 1 year to create your piece and no better tools. So democracy, democratic expression or expressive democracy. That's what she's saying. Okay, I'm gonna try to reconnect. connection just dropped.
It's connecting again.
Hey, hi. Hey, we're back online.
Yeah, sorry. Can you hear us now?
Yes, I can. Yes, sorry. Yeah, the connection went down for a moment.
Yeah. So what I was going to say is that everybody has access to the same shitty tool, but time, it's up to the person. Stop that.
Okay. So when a conversation starts, are you timed by others sort of entering the conversation, or can you then carry on?
It's not real time. So like, it's more like, and eventually we would love it to be real time. But right now what it is you make a drawing, it could take you forever. Some people kind of stop it and then start it again. You can save it. So it doesn't have to be, it could take a number of hours, or it could take 2 seconds. And then you post the drawing. And then somebody at home will see that you posted the drawing. And if, for instance, if it's not the first drawing, but you're responding to someone, those people will see that they got like a new drawing in the drawing that they made. And then somebody can come and reply to you. And again, they can take as much time as they want. There is no timing constraint. And so some people really take a long time and others don't.
Yeah, just wanna add, like, you can save the drawing, so it could really potentially spend a year if you want and then post it. But I think what we try to do different from everything around in terms of those constraints and how to make it more democratic is that I felt that the problem with digital art is that we have too much control. We have too many tools. We have like, it's impossible to make a mistake. It's impossible to, to do something and then regret it. And then have to figure out how to get out of it. And so the way I always felt is that when you work with traditional media, I love oils. And so imagine you spend 3 hours, 4 hours working on this beautiful painting that you love. And then at the end of it, you just take the brush with some painting and you go like that, like, and then that moment of, you don't know if you're going to screw the whole thing or if you're just going to be much more interested. That moment of not knowing is an amazing thing that we have lost with digital art. And so to me, it was like, how we go back.
So you feel that there's too much control with digital?
Too much control. Yeah, I mean, I didn't even want to have undos, but the team rebelled, and I had no other option. But it's like how you go back to that moment in which what you do is what it is, and you feel comfortable enough to put it out there publicly for everyone to see. That is the key, because it's not about making your work of art. It's about having fun when you're doing it without having any thoughts of what people is going to think about, or is it good, it's not good. None of that matters. What matters is as much as you want, and enjoying the process. So that is, I think, that what makes the difference. And then because everybody goes through that process, everyone is so encouraging of everybody else's work, because they know what it is to post something that you're not happy with, and or that you're insecure about. And then you post it and somebody says, oh my God, this is so beautiful, or it's moving, or you touch me, and it really changes the way you think about your own work.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel that too. I feel that sometimes in digital art, that unpolished finishing, I don't want to say it's been lost, but it's certainly more hidden. So it's more difficult to share those moments where you just create something that it could get wrong, but then it allows you that freedom and not being in control. So it is,
Yeah, I mean, the tool is super simple, so it doesn't have layers. It doesn't have a lot of like different features that you can use. So
you're basically not in control.
yeah, people complain like, oh my God, the opacity doesn't work in the iPad, whatever. But in the end, those kind of constraints, as Bea has always said, are supposed to be kind of liberating, because then, you work with what you have.
And also it's like, oh, well, the tool is shitty, so whatever it came out, it's okay, because it's the tool's fault. And so it's just liberating.
Mm-hmm.
But
That's
you were mentioning the crypto space, and one of the things that I also love, it's always been so far a really great community, but I love that we have this kind of dance between. I remember when we first told our artists that they needed to get a digital wallet, and they didn't even know what that meant. And now I see some artists like Mox, we call him Mox, Mojarra, which is here today, or Serste, or Ilan, or like they're selling. I mean, they're completely into it, and they are in different marketplaces, and they just adopted this thing. And at the same time, we have other artists that are in other platforms like Ilan, or like Marco Mlipti, who are also in Dada. So I always love to see this kind of Ophelia Fu, this cross-pollination between some people who come to us from the crypto world, and some people who have gone to the crypto world from us, and that makes me happy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's nice to be in this community, and I feel that everyone is so willing to share knowledge and skills and learn from one another. So I know that the live is going to end soon, because we nearly reached an hour. So I just wanted to ask you if you have any message to share with your audience about Dada, and how would you feel the post-pandemic will look like, and how Dada can contribute to make it better.
Well, the quick answer to that is, I think it's more like, to me, it's more about the economy that we're trying to figure out, which is a much deeper kind of subject. But to me, it's about the sustainability of this, how you make this exponential so that it reaches more people, but also that it's actually sustainable. That is our thing. And I think we are in a very interesting time in which that can be applied, and people can understand it easily. Something that 3 years ago sounded impossible or too idealistic, now it's very viable.
By economy, Bea means the economy that we want to create for artists via crypto, meaning like a token economy, where like art is a currency, and the more people draw, the more they participate, the more the more basic income they get. And it's a very ambitious thing, but we're working on our white paper, and that's kind of the silence that we have is very helpful for us to, as Bea said, concentrate on that, because we feel that maybe the pandemic, hopefully one silver lining will be that it will accelerate completely for people to be open to a new ways of thinking, because everything's going to change. So we're hoping that this idea of universal basic income, of a token economy, of art as crypto, of digital art, where a lot of people are artists and a lot of people are collectors.
And about abundance.
Because it's about abundance and not scarcity and not exclusivity. And those models have to end. People say, like, I remember hearing somebody said, the problem with the art world is that there are too many artists. And we happen to think the opposite. We happen to think that there's not many artists, not artists enough, that there should be far more artists and far more people who appreciate their art, and hopefully we'll be able to do it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So nice.
It's been great talking to you, and thank you for your kind words and for your amazing message. I think that's very important for every artist watching to feel that way, to feel that a new model is possible, and new ways of making art sustainable can be explored. And it's probably now a good time to start experimenting and trusting, fellow artists to do the same.
And also it's a collaborative effort. Like even that system needs to be implemented by anyone that believes in this and not just a group of people. And so that's also an important mindset change that we have to from now on.
And everybody stay safe. And
yes,
if
you
you're
too, guys.
walking in and draw, because you're gonna have a really good time. It's so great to see everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Karen and MoCDA.
It's been lovely chatting with you, Judy and Bear. You take care and speak to you soon.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.